I'm wearing my leather jacket underneath my bathrobe because it is, uh, could be worse, but it's kind of cold. Like 3, 4 hours ago, it was, 60 degrees. Now it's significantly colder. So I'm trying to stay warm here, even if I look, not very metal at all. But, is what it is. I'm getting old, so I just don't care. But welcome back to Beers with Ben. I'm double fisting tonight uh, to celebrate Volume 6's release. It's late Friday night here in Greensboro, and just so you know, I released, uploaded all that stuff just this morning. So, as far as I know, it's really only on Bandcamp so far. I guess there's a lag or something with all the other streaming services, which is kind of disappointing, but is what it is. Um, Hopefully, by the time this airs, it'll be on Apple Music, Spotify, um, YouTube, Amazon, you know, whatever, whichever you choose to get your media through. But this series dealing with Volume 6, we're only going to be doing 2 videos this time because there's only 4 songs and 2 of them just kind of, I don't know, it fits together to do 2 songs per video since only 2 of the songs have lyrics and 2 are instrumentals. And maybe I'm jumping ahead by saying this, but well, I actually considered making this an entirely instrumental album, and my thought behind that was, hey, why not just make it choose your own adventure sort of thing? But after I thought about it, I sort of made a compromise with myself of, well, it'll be 2 songs that are instrumentals, 2 songs that have lyrics to it, and kind of set up where the protagonist, his journey is going, because so knowing a bit about different literary theories and whatnot, if I just make it an instrumental choose your own journey sort of thing, like anyone could come up with anything they could imagine. You know, um, it could go in literally almost any direction and is limited to the individual's imagination. And that can be a good thing, and it can be a very, very bad thing. Um, of just sort of leaving it to I just think of it in this like ultra postmodern, post-structural sort of theoretical narrative where I put the music out, it's instrumental, and one person could say that it's a journey through a town, and then another person could say, no, it's a song about rape or whatever, like something just extremely messed up. And so the rationale for me personally was, well, I have to give it some sort of literary structure to it so that the individual mind can't take it too far outside the limits of what the story needs to be. Um, if if any of that makes sense to anyone. Um, so anyway, taking a step back, tonight we are drinking Founders. This is the only reason I picked it up, because Founders Brewery generally does some good stuff. This is their something bastard. Oh, Dirty Bastard. Um, it's a Scotch style ale. So I've already tasted from it. It'll put a little hair on your chest. It could be worse, but sort of uh, kind of reminds me of some, bourbon barrel stouts. I mean, it's obviously Scotch style, so I mean, right in the whiskey sort of family. Um, it's not my favorite, but for what it is, it's pretty good. I'm not a big Scotch person. Uh, and then the other one is the Ludwig Vienna Lager. It's Duck Rabbit, which I think they're in Asheville, like Asheville, North Carolina. I can't remember exactly where they're located, but I want to say, yeah, it's right. No, it isn't Asheville. Oh, it's down in Farmville, so that's ECU kind of country. It's where my brother went to school, ECU. So Farmville is like, I don't know, 15 minutes from there. So didn't realize there was much of anything in Farmville, honestly. Uh, cheers. So, getting straight into it, going to talk about chapter 48 and 49 of this. I guess the precursor is sort of the recording process itself. I started recording volume 6, which is called The Departure. Suppose it has a double meaning, um, which the surface meaning will kind of deal with today in this video, but the further meaning sort of gets into tomorrow, I suppose. Really, there's two departures, but we'll get into that. So, yeah, I released volume 5, and when I released volume 5, I didn't really have a direction of where I wanted to go necessarily right away, but I recognized when I released volume 5 that I needed to continue making music. Basically right away, immediately. So, I released that back in early October and started writing these 4 batch of songs pretty much immediately right away, within, a couple of days, sort of thing. Maybe within like a week. I mean, it takes time, you know, but it was immediate. I felt the drive to do it. And it really, that drive didn't hit me until Volume 5 was out there. It wasn't like I planned on it, you know, oh, I'm going to start working again right away, even if it's only 4 songs. But it just felt like it needed to be done. And that's because of the subject matter of these songs, which really we'll deal with some today, but we're going to get into the heavy of it, you know, in the next video. All I'm going to say right now was it was it wasn't, I don't want to label it an existential crisis, but I was dealing with a major crisis when I released Volume 5. It's why it took so long even to do those Volume 5 videos. It took me 2.5, 3 weeks just to film those videos, which, you know, as long as they are, you know, for, I guess, the average person that seems normal, but for me it's like knock this shit out right away, you know, not take that long just to do, you know, 10 videos or whatever. It's like in an ideal situation I would film all those videos as long as they are in like a week. But I was dealing with this major crisis, so, you know, I just, I couldn't find time. Like, straight up could not find the time. Things were really bad at that time. Really the last couple of months of recording, and why is this not working? Sorry, my mouse is kind of messing up on me, so I'm gonna have to, probably the battery's dead or something. Yeah, I think so. Damn. So, yeah, it was just a really bad time, and it wasn't until really the last of the videos was posted and I started writing these songs that the crisis was coming to an end. But those, you know, basically last summer really was just a crisis event. And so writing these 4 songs was my reaction to that, and why I needed to write these songs basically right away. So we'll start with the first song of the album, chapter 48 of this entire series, going back as far as Volume 1. And this one, so, okay, the end of Volume 5, Lady Elm passed away, and it was the protagonist in the Black Knight basically taking her dead body, and the the prison that the protagonist has been in since volume 2 has fallen. They're outside the prison. They pick up Lady Elm's dead body and start carrying her outside of the prison, you know, to bury her or whatever. And I would say the burial or whatever, that pretty much happens, off panel, so to speak. It's not something that I feel needed to be dealt with in a song. So really where chapter 48 really starts is them after this fact in just having to come to this split decision of, okay, where are we going from here, sort of thing. So, by the way, chapter 48 is called The Strangers. Should probably, Sorry, I don't know if you can hear that on there, but there's some animal fighting or animal something going on ways back behind me. It doesn't sound good, but cheers to that. So getting into the actual story of chapter 48, the speakers are the protagonist and the Black Knight. They're basically the only two people because Lady Elm is dead, and pretty much everybody else in their little tribe, they're who knows what they're doing at this point. So, yeah. I guess we can deal with the music for this song. So, this was actually the second song that I started of the 4 in this EP. And sorry again, I might as well just put this down. So I started the music of this song after I saw a meme or something like pop up on my Facebook feed, and like watch a lot of like guitar videos or whatever. So the algorithm feeds me music stuff, and so whatever it was that popped up was showing, I guess, like a chord structure, tablature or whatever, but it was specifically how the B diminished 7th chord repeats every 3 frets on a guitar, and this is because it's only 4 notes. So I think it's kind of like, I play left-handed and upside down, but it's kind of like this sort of shape, at least for me. But the fact that, okay, start on like the 3rd fret, then move up to whatever, 7th fret, 10th fret, what is it, 3, then 4, 6, 8, 9, and 12, something like that. But every 3 frets, I mean, you could go beyond the 12th, of course, but um, it is the exact same shape, but it's the same chord. Um, and that just blew my mind. Um, Now, like, starting down on like the 3rd fret, that would be like, I want to say the bass note would be a C. Pretty sure it would be a C, and then you would move up to the 6, and that would be, what is that, like an F sharp or something like that. Um, so like what I would consider being like the bass note changes each time from like a C or B to F sharp, whatever. But it's the exact same 4 notes repeated no matter which position you're on. Um, and it just, yeah, blew my mind. And like I said, the bass note would be different each time, but or like the highest note would be different each time, but it's a complete succession of these, 4 notes that make this B diminished 7th chord. So seeing this inspired me to kind of write a song around that. Um, to write a couple of guitar parts that use this. I didn't want to just go from the 3 to the 6 to the 9 to the 12 sort of thing. So I think I did like a 3 to the 9, then the 6 to the 12, just sort of threw it up. And um, so, like, my guitar processor has an effect on it that actually it's like an auto riff sort of generator, and you can hit one note on it and it will play the diminished uh, notes in succession. So it's like da 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 da. And I thought, okay, what if I play this B diminished 7th chord, structure, but with this diminished effect on top of that? Like, how weird would that be? So, that happens in the intro and sort of later on in the song too, just to, make something super weird. I mean, I've heard this chord before. I know, for example, um, there was an outro for a song by Every Time I Die, um, where they use this diminished 7th on their X Lives album. And I was like, hearing that outro, back, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago when I first heard it, I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. But it was like when I heard this, when I saw, this meme for this diminished chord, and then picked up my guitar and, tried it out myself, I was like, oh yeah, that's what Every Time I Die's doing. And so, that was, it was a Facebook meme that actually started this song, as weird as that may be. Um, so, I thought to myself, okay, do this sort of diminished thing in the background? Can I do a heavy breakdown, based on this chord? And so that that's how this song started, was, you know, working everything around this B diminished seventh. Um, so, I mean, music nerds probably look at this and be like, cheers, bro. Most of you probably don't give a shit, but I thought it was cool, and that's what matters, right? So, sorry again, gotta deal with this. So, we'll get into the literal meaning of the song with the actual like story meaning. So, the protagonist and the Black Knight, they are essentially in this song deciding, okay, we need to get outside the city. Um, because this prison that they've been stuck in all this time is still within a large city. Think, something like New York City sort of thing. And basically this whole song is just the two of them running through the streets, going through buildings, shops, etc. And they're escaping the city because, and I've said this before, and it definitely ties into Volume 5, what happens at the end, not just the death thing, but with Lady Elm, but there's this revolution going on, this socio-political movement. And above that, even, this culture war that goes all the way back to Volume 1. The protagonist wants nothing to do with any of it. Neither does the Black Knight. This culture war, revolution, whatever, obviously in like Volume 4, Volume 5, has reached the city that they're in this world. It's even, at the end of Volume 5, gotten into the prison. There's been an overthrow of the rule in there with Eugene and everything. And running through the streets of this city in their departure from the city, they're witnessing a lot of violence and just choosing not to be a part of it. We're talking like riots, fires all over the city. And yeah, we've known all this from previous volumes. Think back to Volume 1, the song Build This City, and whatever song came after that, I can't even remember. The protagonist back in that section of Volume 1 was in, a distant, different city, but he was seeing the same thing, and, in that leg of the story, he just kind of stood back as being this ex-soldier and watched these riots happen. So none of this rioting revolutionary bullshit is new to him whatsoever, and neither to the Black Knight. I would only say that the only difference is that there's more violence in this case as compared to like back in volume 1, and like violence to a degree that is life and death sort of thing. But point is, they're seeing all this stuff firsthand and running away anyway because they don't want to deal with it. They're not trying to interact with anyone around them, but and maybe it's insinuated in the lyrics, maybe it's not. It could be up to interpretation. I like to think that as non-violent as they choose to be, they're still having to clock a motherfucker, you know? They're running through a building, like in the artwork in particular, which the artwork for this song sort of used as a template the building that I work in, because I was like literally on the clock between my rounds, just like started drawing, you know, this sort of thing, because I was sitting there at the desk and nothing better to do but to draw. And it just made sense to, you know, use my own environment, which is, you know, decent sized office building, is, you know, the artwork for this particular song. And yeah, they're going through these office buildings and stuff, and people are attacking them. And so, of course, they're ex-soldiers. They're kind of badass dudes. Like, they can handle their own. And I like to think that in this song they do. Like, in the artwork, like, dudes, like, doing some Bruce Lee shit, you know, kicking a dude, like, straight in the face. Like, they can defend themselves, is all I'm trying to say. But they're not, I think there's a difference between self-defense and just getting carried away with, you know, violence, of being overwhelmed by like personal rage. I wrote it sort of into the lyrics too, that so like psychologically speaking, when it comes to crisis of any kind, you know, you either have a fight or flight sort of response. And it kind of occurred to me, it's like, well, what if the two become one and the same? Where you're willing to fight, hurt somebody like really bad in order to like get away from something. Or maybe it's even possible to, you know, the vice versa of that. You know, what if the two become the same in order to gain peace? So that's what's going on in this song. So they're really trying not to interact with anyone, but they are breaking jaws in the process because other people are attacking them. And so moving on, um, the protagonist admits, and you can think of this in like comic book terms of it being a retcon. I don't think it is one. I don't think it affects anything, but he admits that this entire time, all the way back to volume one, he's had what would be considered contraband hidden on his persons. And this is in the form of two objects. One is a ring and one is a photograph. And this photograph is of his home, where he came from. Um, yeah, I don't want to think of it as a retcon because it doesn't affect any of the story so far. It's just this kind of like added thing that some people might label as a retcon, that he's not supposed to have this object, but not really. It really isn't that. So the two of them at the end get outside the city and into the country, and they're like in nature and feeling this momentary peace of being outside of this city and away from everything that's just really messed up. Because like in the process, and what I have to take a step back, the ring and the picture of home, the protagonist is like gripping this stuff in his pocket at one point because they in their fleeing from the city passed by a gallows. And in this, nothing is ever mentioned of Aurora or anything like that. So I would take that as the listener, as literary critic, as a sign that like her body is not there, because she's dead. That goes back to volume 5. She's dead. She was hung at the gallows. They pass by and they're fleeing by this very gallows, but the protagonist at the very least would have stopped if he saw her body there. But seeing the image of this gallows, he grips at this stuff in his pocket because like it all kind of, there is a full circle thing going on in his head, and that will probably make more sense later on and tomorrow, like in the next video. But the point is, they get outside the city. A lot of what's going on in this song is them fleeing it, the city and all the violence, but they're at the same time self-reflecting on the past and where they've come from. And so being in, nature, forest, whatever, they have this momentary peace, but it gets disrupted, and not by anything in particular at first. They just have this sense that something is wrong. And then right after that, they start hearing an unknown voice kind of off in the distance speaking to them eerily and indiscernibly. And so that's 48 The Strangers in a nutshell right there. So let me scroll down here from my notes. We're going to talk about the like personal meaning at this point. So personally for me, I mean, this song is personal in a lot of ways, but I think there's also more emotional distance with it as well. I think like the surface level meaning of it is it's really dealing with escaping trauma, and even like the escape of like post-traumatic stress, shell shock, whatever you want to call it. It's really dealing with the need for finding peace and having like a lack of patience in dealing with trauma and other people's bullshit. It's kind of as simple as that. So it's kind of like my personal mindset of being in this post-COVID world. Like, COVID hit, okay. You know, the world in the last 4 years has just been a roller coaster ride, and most days still don't know exactly what to make of it, but I do realize that, life after COVID, it's not the same. Like, it just isn't. I wish it was, but it isn't. And being, past the pandemic, so to speak, like, things are obviously better. Like, I can go out to, my local restaurant and walk inside now, right? But there's also this underlying, I don't know what to call it or whatever, but like, things aren't the same, and society has changed. There is a greater divide now, and meanwhile I'm sitting here and it's just like I just want to have freedom from not dealing with drama and unnecessary battles. And so I guess like the second layer of that, getting past that, is, dealing with loneliness. Recognizing like so much time has passed, and I'm gonna be like 40 in a few weeks from now, of my recording this. And when writing this song back in October, like, I recognize like I wasted a lot of time on my past romantic pursuits. So like Aurora and the Gallows and stuff is sort of a reflection of that. Like, do I regret it? Not necessarily, but it was a waste of time. So like, what now? Like, nearing 40, like, what the hell am I supposed to do with my life? I don't know. Um, a lot of romantic pursuits were just stupid or whatever, but like a lot of it, um, it was stuff I really believed, but it all fell apart. And it's not just the real life Aurora character or whoever. It's just like I'm batting zero at this point. Like with with countless women, and you could say like, oh, you learn this from that situation, you learn something else here, but it's like, well, it was still all kind of a waste of time if they end up with somebody else and married and with kids and stuff like that. Like, and I end up with, nothing but knowledge. Like, I truly do believe that you have to experience something. It's the pineapple thought experiment sort of thing with John Locke or whatever. Um, you can only know the taste by actually experiencing it. So that knowledge and the wisdom that I gained, like I had to go through those things, I suppose, but it still feels like a waste of time. So like, what am I supposed to do from here? Um, and so yeah, obviously I'm writing that into what the protagonist and the Black Knight are both dealing with, and the recognition that within the literal context of the story, but also with me personally, like we're not young chickens anymore. Um, it's the recognition of certain ideals seem to be failing, but also recognizing that you're still alive and you're a survivor. So it's, that like metaxis between, well, this was a waste of time and all, but I learned something from this and I survived it, and hopefully I'm better because of it. And then at the center, meaning personally, and this is going to make a lot more sense in context of tomorrow's video, and I'm not going to, I guess I'll keep some mystery to it, kind of beat around the bush, honestly. But there's a verse or two in this song when it talks about the ring that he has like stashed in his pocket, and the lyrics in that section surrounding that ring is dealing with, I guess at this point, the second most harmful and hurtful and painful words that I've ever been told in my life. I mean, I've been called the Antichrist, for Christ's sake. Like, somebody actually like called me the Antichrist once. I've been, you know, told in the past that, you know, I was a rebel and should have never went off to Christian college because it fucked me up in the head, and I'm no longer, like all this sort of stuff. And, in the context of those, interpersonal relationships, yeah, it was messed up and it hurt a lot at the time, but not, even those weren't as, like long standing as number two of those hurtful words. Um, so basically what happened when I was 19 or 20 years old was I stepped into the middle of an argument once to actually defend some some other people. Like literally was minding my own business at like this particular moment, walked into this environment, and there was this major argument going on. And I jumped into the argument um, to actually defend one of the sides because, like, going into the crisis sort of shit, like, it was another time of crisis, and so I stepped into this argument to defend what I knew was the truth. And in the process of defending other people and defending the truth, the side that I was coming up against told me in that context that, like, based on how I was acting and my behavior and everything, that I did not deserve a good wife. And at the time, like, being in the middle of crisis and everything, I just let it bounce off me, whatever. Like, say those fucked up comments, I don't care. Like, that has nothing to do with this argument. Let's stick to the facts or whatever. But, like, over the years, it I guess got under my skin, and it's been 20 years, I guess, and it's like, well, I'm still not married, still can't get a girlfriend or anything, and it's like I know it's a lie and everything. I know it was said in the heat of the moment, but it's like, for me, this like idea of like spiritual rebellion, like I had to rebel against those words. I had to find my own way and seek, you know, values for myself, and not because like it was inherited or whatever. So a lot of my work, no matter what it is, like this music, whether it's novels that I write, my visual art, poetry, whatever, like, kind of gets into like my core motivation of like I have to rebel against those words that were spoken to me. And so, like, being, I don't want to say obsessed, but like being focused and interested on romantic theology and philosophy of like the philosophy of love, essentially, is one of my like primary motivations in life. Like, I think most of everything that I put my hands to goes back to that subject matter. And so, yeah, it's important to me. And in this, in the literal story of the song, he talks about this ring being given to him right after these words were spoken to him, that he didn't deserve a good wife. And in real life, that wasn't true. I wrote it that way in this song because it just fit for what this song's about, of that number two, um, you know, most painful, hurtful, whatever words spoken to me, kind of thing. And I mean, I've been cussed out. I've been, you know, had a lot of, you know, messed up things said to me, but you know, it's things like that that, you know, just goes straight to the heart. And maybe because of like the nature of the relationships, of those people saying it. Like a stranger on the street could say something 10 times worse than that, and I'd be like, well, fuck you. Like, it wouldn't hurt because it's a stranger. Like, who cares what a stranger says? But when it's somebody, you know, really close to you, like, it stings more. And I'll just leave it with that for now. We'll get into the meat of it in the next video, but need to move on. Um, so yeah, with the whole like him receiving the ring in the song, it's out of chronological order for like my, you know, autobiographical life account sort of thing, but it needed to stick to this song because of, you know, the whole, um, you know, not deserving a good wife sort of thing. Um, but I'll explain more tomorrow in the next video. So the references in this song, there's not too many, but a few. So said like preached how we never deserved a good wife, which yeah, actually I mentioned that before in chapter 23. So this song kind of expounds on that from, you know, chapter 23. That would have been volume 2. So you know, it's maybe it is a retcon after all, but yeah, talking more about that. So yeah, cool. Then reference to, you know, flight or fight becomes one, either or, but both. You know, already said that, but that psychological concept. Then there's a line of no bosom to satiate thirst, which is kind of a reference to Proverbs 5:18 through 19. There's phrase in there of hope deterred, which is a word play off of, you know, hope deferred, um, which, you know, that's a phrase from Proverbs 13:12. The title itself, The Strangers, is actually kind of a nod towards the novel The Stranger by Albert Camus. You know, he's one of my favorite authors. And let's see, line only given to me a day later after hearing my deserving was $1 short, was a line which, you know, that deals with him receiving the ring. And that is kind of a play on the idiomatic expression a day late and $1 short. So yeah, that's chapter 48 in a nutshell. And now we're going to move into chapter 49.